But I understand him, I'm a fan of the music, and he's very transparent in his music, and so I get it, Zro is who he is, what I'm saying? So, and he's consistent. So I knew how to navigate him. But yeah, I didn't realize it. To the fans was saying like, hey, like we never seen him that jovial and smiling and, with it like that.
Yeah, we on Boss Talk 101. Yeah, we gonna talk.
I gotta ask you, going back to the show, I seen that you had interviewed Zro, man. How was that, man? I mean, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I always see Zro, and we seen him. We spoke to him because of Propane and just in the same room, and we're like, hey, what's up? But a lot of times when you see the character versus the the music, you're trying to build an understanding of how this guy ticks. Very talented dude.
Yes.
Always focused when it come down to lyrics. You can't get around him on a hook. He crazy with it. You could put him up there with the Nate Dogg's and all of them just on the hook, and the rhyme scheme is just as cold.
That's right.
So how did you end up connecting with him, and how was that interview for you?
I had to. So Echo connected me with him.
Okay.
And so she reached out and she was like, Zro, he liked your show. He want to come to the show. And so the funny thing about it, the fans, they were like, man, this is really different. We've never seen Zro smile like this, but I knew what I was dealing with going into it. Right. I get the personality, you know what I mean? He's an only child. He's a loner. And so I knew how to he had to warm up to me.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
I've done those interviews.
Yeah. So probably about 50 minutes in.
Of course. I've done those interviews.
And so, but I understand him, I'm a fan of the music, and he's very transparent in his music, and so I get it, Zro is who he is, Yeah. So, and he's consistent. So I knew how to navigate him. But yeah, I didn't realize it. To the fans was saying like, hey, like we never seen him that jovial and smiling and, with it like that.
So you like the way the interview flowed after you? It's sometimes like a boxing match.
Yes, it is.
You're trying to figure out how to make this happen the way you want it to happen. Yes. And that's the challenging part that nobody talks about in podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
That every time you see us or Charlemagne or any of these people, whoever it may be, trying to understand how to get this to go, whether they trying to start mess, whether they trying to keep it real, whatever they're trying to do, they really trying to connect with the audience.
That's a fact. It's a skill set.
It is. And so I think a lot of times people don't think of that. They just watching it. Oh, he cut him off. Oh, he did this. Yeah. They don't understand a lot of this stuff because we have like all these dang interviews. I mean, I got 5,000 some interviews. Right. By now, if I can't do it now.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, me and you was talking about it. You was talking about that. Like people think, and you do have some people that cut folks off. Nori, he cut folks off, right? He cut folks off. But sometime with us, like we were saying, man, we have to it's good. Oh, sometimes we have to, kind of, you may have somebody long-winded. They get to kind of repeating themselves. You're like, okay, I'm running up time. And you got to kind of bogart in there to redirect the conversation.
That's right.
It's not necessarily us that know what we're doing. We're not cutting them off. We're redirecting the conversation.
Exactly, because a lot of times they're not understanding the flow of it. And then I do clips, which even make it worse because you don't know what part that I cut where I came back in at. So I know that. So, I mean, I remember one of the worst ones where everybody was like, man, he keep cutting Mike Jones. Boy, that was the one right there. But they were mad at me. Everybody, man, why you keep cutting him off? Man, let him talk. And I'm like, man, the conversation goes, but then it's something that sways. And I'm like, I'm not digging the conversation as much as I think. Whether it's me doing a bad job of trying to direct it and trying to understand how to maneuver it, or whether it's him trying to get comfortable, like you said, it's a lot going on when you conversate on a podcast, bro.
I think it's understanding. I'm sorry,
go ahead.
To you. But I think it's understanding what. It really works when you understand what you're trying to get, and when and you understand what they're trying to get.
That's it.
You see what I'm saying?
That's it right there.
So it's like, okay, what are we doing here? What is the mission? I don't like to just, talk. I don't bring guests on just to talk. You know what I'm saying? And it may seem like that, but there still has to be a goal. Is there a narrative? Is there something? What are we doing here? So
I think the main thing you got to understand, man, is just to even get up and do this takes a lot of courage.
It does.
I'll be honest, because you're opening up and doing different. Now, it's a lot of them, and I don't knock them. They sit behind the camera, and that's cool too. Yep. But I didn't care. I want to talk. I want to make sure you understand this conversation is it's definitely a dialogue, and we're trying to figure it out together, you know. But at the end of the day, I think it's different styles. I think both of them are needed.
Yeah.
Because some of them isolate things like the one others do, like Vlad and all those guys. They isolate it to Sean Cotton, say cheese, to the person while they're talking, and I like that too. I'm actually trying to do one like that as well that I've been working on too.
Yeah, that's dope.
On my other beat channel, you know. But the one thing I can say about you though, you don't stop, bro. You still keep going, and then I liked the one what you did with Crazy Bone. Crazy Bone, and he had been sick.
Yeah, that's so it was good. Time.
Yeah, that was the second. I know, but the first time he wasn't sick before you interviewed him. So this next time, you know, what was different for you on this one?
Man, that one was special, you know, because again, you know, Bone is family, you know, and you know, Lay, Busy, you know, Wish, Flesh, Cray. And Cray has been the one that came on twice, you know.
Okay.
And so I was really concerned about him, you know, when he was sick, like for real. And as I said, my wife is a praying woman. She was really praying for him, like she been knowing him 30 years.
Of course.
But to some degree, yes, vicariously through his music, she had, you know. So it was cool to have him come on the show and recount what had went on with him, and he was very, very transparent. And I'm really interested to hear their new album because, you know, he's kind of going. I'm not gonna say going through a soul searching period because I think he knows who he is, but you know, he's on a different page. You know, he's on a very spiritual, positive page. You know, so I was trying to see if there was a little difference with him. You know, I think per how I knew him before and when he came on the first time compared to the second time, he seemed to be very, very focused and purpose. You know,
purpose driven.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
more so now than he was before.
Now, yes, more so now. And he was standing on his principles and his understanding of, you know, wanting to help people, help the kids, the things he's doing in Cleveland with his Spread the Love Foundation. And like even with the Bone Thugs and Harmony, they in the studio right now. And so I asked him, I'm like, hey, how y'all gonna navigate? Because I know where you are, but you know, you are Bone Thugs and Harmony. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, no, they're my brothers. If they want to do, you know, get something off their chest and still keep it thugging, I won't be on the song because I don't want to rap about things that I rapped about back then. I think we should move forward, you know, and rap about things that matter. I shouldn't say things that matter, but things that are applicable to where they are in their lives.
I agree. I like that.
I'm saying? And I'm curious to see how they do that. And I really think they're all kind of on the same page.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know, and they can still do their edgy stuff, you know what I mean? But I know Lay is my partner. We actually working on the show together. So I think they gon', you know what I mean? I think it'll be dope. You know, Bone is family, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we on Boss Talk 101. Yeah, we gonna talk.